this is Elige, and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, and welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. We are back. Not a vacation. We still got one episode in this week. We met the quota. But we are back from DreamHack Dallas. This is episode 160, coming to you live, pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, June 6, 2019. The time, 7:23 p.m. Central Standard Time. This will be the best episode ever. A little bit shorter than most, probably, as I am still recuperating from DreamHack Dallas, and Anuj is recuperating from his, well, I can only assume, crazy wedding in Indiana. But we're getting old, man, and that's just what happens. For this week, like I said, we're going to go over Dallas. We're going to go over some esports, some Dallas stories, but we also have a very special interview with Mike Van Driel. He is the CPO, the Chief Product Officer of DreamHack. He was obviously at DreamHack Dallas, and I got a chance to sit down and talk with him. So we'll play that interview for you later in the show. Man, I actually thought it was pretty good. The plan was to do the interview and then like cut it up into pieces and just play little clips here and there. And then afterwards, I was like, you know what? That was actually pretty good. So we'll just play the whole thing, which we'll do that here in just a little bit. But beforehand, let's pimp out the soch. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring if you're not doing so already. Join our Discord, be a part of the conversation. We would love to hear from you. We love our listeners. And go ahead and leave a review on iTunes or anything else that you can. Would appreciate it. But let's say hi to the crew. Hello, my name is Tim, if you don't know that. And we have Anuj. Hello, Anuj. How are you feeling?
What's up, bud? Making it through. I'm here for the listeners, you know? Doing it for them today. Pushing through.
Oddly enough, you like... So one thing we forgot to mention in our DreamHack survival guide is to drink a lot of like vitamin C, and don't be ashamed for bringing like little breathing masks or anything to try to fight con fever. Normally I'm dead. After like right now I'm just tired because my DreamHack guests who fly into town every year for DreamHack just left this morning. So it's like I'm like on average for the last week maybe 5 hours of sleep a night, maybe. So I'm pretty beat, but I'm not sick. I did not get sick this year at DreamHack, which is amazing in itself. But you, on the other hand, went to a wedding and you got sick.
But there was a handful of people that got sick. Somebody brought it there. Someone brought it, infected all of us. And I have to wait. Did you say wear a breathing mask at DreamHack? Can you imagine if you did that? You would get trolled so hard. You could not wear a breathing mask and go over there.
You would get trolled with our group of friends. But there are a lot of people there walking around in those little masks. That's like a fashion thing now.
Yeah, Ty Lue. But who else?
We saw a fair share. I say fair share. I maybe saw 10 people with them.
Like the StarCraft community, maybe, or something. I don't know. Like, I don't.
You're not far off. You're not far off with your stereotypes. But nonetheless, if you're prone to getting sick, I don't judge anyone to do anything to not get sick. But man, no, I actually felt. I mean, I didn't get cold. Like normally, I'm dead after a DreamHack weekend. I get sick or something. But I guess this year everyone was healthy. You did have to miss DreamHack.
I did. That was like the worst part. Obviously, DreamHack is something that we just look forward to every single year. And this year when I found out I couldn't go, I mean, the moment I found out, my text started flying over to y'all like, what can we do? Think of an excuse. Somebody hit me with a car, like do something. we could not come up with anything that would be acceptable. So I did miss it. I was living through y'all's pictures, tweets, um, following some of the esports that were going on over there. But excited to hear your take on it for sure.
Yeah, so this was the first year in DreamHack for Dallas, obviously, and I'm not gonna lie, I did miss Austin. The weekend, this is our fourth DreamHack. It's the fourth time they've even done it in Texas in our area. So normally we drive down to Austin, which is about a 3-4 hour drive, and like everyone leaves around the same time, and it's just a caravan of people that drive to Austin. Kind of kicks off the weekend. Well, this year it's in Dallas, which is where we live. We live 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away from the convention center on where it was at. So it didn't really feel as much of a trip or vacation. Like the weekend itself for DreamHack flew by. I almost depressingly when I think back how quick it went. Now, it could be just because for the most part it went, I mean, really, it did go smooth. I didn't do any of the tournaments, like we said last episode. I avoided doing tournaments. So that might have helped with the smoothness. I didn't have to operate on anyone else's schedule for the first time ever at DreamHack. I was just doing what I wanted to do and didn't have to worry about a tournament or anything like that. But man, it really did fly by. Played a lot of games. Counter-Strike was a big one, which I don't play Counter-Strike as much nowadays. I tend to gravitate to Overwatch or games that I can pick up and play under an hour. And let's be real, sometimes those Counter-Strike games can take an hour.
Yep, for
so
sure.
you're stuck doing that. But we played quite a bit of Counter-Strike. I'm happy to say that after playing Battalion, 1944, Overwatch, Apex, Splitgate, all of them, all the hot games now coming up, I played them all this weekend. I'm here to tell everyone that Counter-Strike is still the best game out there.
It is, and it's been a lot of hot takes recently with like Shroud's comments. I don't know if you've heard them or not, but regarding Battalion and how he thinks it's the next best game, even more competitive than CS from a shooter standpoint. But something about playing CS with your friends and actually having a 5Q that makes a big difference, right? Than like solo
Right.
queuing MM or something. But playing Counter-Strike with your friends, man, if everyone's at least somewhat on the same level, it's really hard to beat that.
Yeah. And even, I mean, like I said, I was talking with Brett, rest in peace, at lunch today, talking about how it's like Counter-Strike, it's just the community is different, right? It's trash. You're going to get trash people and they'll try to troll and be jerks or whatever, throw games. That's in every game. But for the most part, I feel like everyone knows what to expect when you're getting into a Counter-Strike match. It's like, dude, we can, like, for example, we were down one match this weekend by 9. We were 0-9 on Overpass. And I'm not kidding, only one guy on our team was calling it quits, saying GG. Everybody else on the team was like, what do you, like, we're down by 9, but bro, this is Counter-Strike.
Get a couple of rounds. Yeah.
Like, win a couple of rounds, get the pistol round. That's 3 rounds right there. Like, we're good. Like, calm down. And guess what? We won 16-10.
That is awesome.
Made a comeback. And so, but like everyone was laughing, having a good time. It was great playing Counter-Strike, man. And get this, all right? So we're playing matchmaking. And in Counter-Strike I have TCR as like my little clan tag. And some dude goes, like in a matchmaking, goes, "Hey TCR, how's DreamHack?" And I was like,
shit.
I kind of looked around. I was like, "Good. How do you know we're here?" And he's like, "Oh, because I'm a huge fan of the show. I'll be there tomorrow."
Are you serious?
I am
Look at
dead
that.
serious. I believe he's in our Discord. I believe his name was Mumble. So Mumble, if you're listening, shout out. Yeah. We beat him. He was actually one that I was like, we were struggling. It was struggling, and then we came back and won. I don't think he was like the 0-9 map.
Damn, you didn't let a listener win.
You know me.
That's kind of messed up.
You know me. I was rough at the start though. It was my first game in a while, and I couldn't be my trolly self either though. I was like, oh, there's a listener on the other team. I gotta be nice. Gotta be nice. But no, it was great. Playing Counter-Strike was a lot of fun. Funny you brought up Shroud's opinion on Battalion because one game did not survive the weekend, and that was Battalion. It is no longer installed on my machine.
What happened?
It's just a trash game. I did not have fun playing it. I was playing with friends. It was me, our boy Soggy, and Moisty. We were playing Battalion. One game we won. We played a total of like 5 games over the weekend. In 2 or 3 games, okay, we lose 3 rounds in a row. And I'm not kidding, Anuj. In every single one of those games, someone's voting to forfeit.
Which is already calling it quits.
Already, we are down by 3, and they're calling it quits. And you know me, I'm not a quitter. I say no. I vote no, and I'm like, bro, come on, like we got this. Like, let's go. I vote no, and then they're just done. They're done.
They throw the rest of the game.
They're throwing the game. They're just goofing around, and that happened about 3 times. And after the 3rd time, we all looked at each other and said, "So you want to go play Counter-Strike again?"
Time to move on.
We were done with Battalion 1944. So for a new game, for a small community, all I can say is that don't be a trash community when you're a small game. Like, your game is already, I don't care how many streamers or how many big guys give it credit. There's been a lot of games that streamers have liked that have died. So I don't know, man. It was not fun.
Like, kind of like we said yesterday or last episode. I think it'll fill a niche, spot in the esports community. I find it hard to believe that it'll ever be huge, even though, like you said, it's been getting a lot of praise, at least within my follower circle,
Right.
I follow a lot of these big esports guys or whatever you want to call them. And there has been a lot of praise recently for the game. So seeing that and then playing the game, I played a little bit this week. I'm like, I don't see it. I just don't see it.
That's what we were like, it's okay.
It's not bad. It's not like a bad game. It's just, it'll fill its purpose as a mixed CSGO COD type game.
It's like for the people who can't play COD or CSGO, there's Battalion. Like, that's kind of where I'm in between on it. I also will say this. I don't think any game can call itself competitive with a prone. Like, any first-person shooter with a prone, get it out. Just get it out.
I'm not a fan of like drop shots and stuff like that. Like
drop shots, proning, I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. You're watching these people play like while you're dead spectating, and it's like, at first we were laughing because this dude's crosshair was always looking at the ground, and we were like, this guy's crosshairs placement is awful. And then we realized, like, oh no, he's just knows that people are going to be camping prone. So it's just, I don't know, man. Not my bag. It also didn't help that like 3 games in a row, we were just with the most toxic teammates. So that kind of killed Battalion for me, and I was kind of a supporter for it. But maybe I'll hop back on. Maybe if like we're all on and we could just get a team of 5 going or something like that. But I don't know.
For now, it's out.
I think if we just get 5 people on, we play Counter-Strike, and
that's probably what will happen.
Move on there. What else did we do, man? It was so much going on at
How was the music?
So yes, the music, I actually went to both nights. 7 Lion played Friday, and then Trivium played Saturday. Now Trivium is more my type of music. I like metal, so I went and watched a little bit of them, like maybe 4 or 5 songs, and I did about the same with 7 Lions. I stayed for about 20-30 minutes for each one to say I did it. It was great. They was on the opposite end of BYOC with a wall next to them. So you could hear the bass and everything if you were at BYOC, but it was not distracting like years past where it was just loud as hell. But it sounded good. Friday night, you could definitely tell when the people were rolling in for the concert and not DreamHack, though. So many
Different
glow
crowd.
sticks and...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Those EDM people.
They make it interesting for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how they leave their house looking the way some of them do. A lot of fishnets and a lot of glow sticks. And I'm like, hey, whatever, man. Whatever you're into, I guess. Go for it. Go for it. But so, no, the music was good. The setup, so because you weren't there, the setup was pretty legit. They had Counter-Strike way off on its own, because obviously you could buy a ticket just for Counter-Strike, right?
Yeah.
So it was in like the arena. I guess I never knew that, but there's like a bowl arena at the convention center. So that's where Counter-Strike was. I watched a little bit of Counter-Strike in person, but again, it was so far away from BYOC. It was kind of out of sight, out of mind. The games that were really hot for in the main event, Rocket League, right when you walked in, boom, Rocket League stage, and it looked sick. It was a really cool looking stage. You had the fighting games to the right of it. Very meh this year. We'll get into that in a second. And then the Halo, which was kind of off into the corner by the Microsoft booth.
Did you watch any Halo?
I did. Of course I did. Man, I can't wait for that game to come back on PC. I was playing. So another big game of the week was Destiny 2. Got back on that
Yeah.
Destiny 2 grind and playing Crucible on the multiplayer on that. I'm like, I'm so sick of class-based shooters with power-ups and just give me a gun. Like, let me and my opponents fight on the same level playing field. Let me have map control. Let me get back to the roots, Like, stop it.
But Destiny's not built as a competitive shooter.
I
That's
know.
not what
I
it's.
know.
It's like it is a RPG
It-
class-based shooter. So
Yeah, Destiny.
for
I'm not
what it
saying
is, I'm loving it. But yeah, I
Yes.
agree. Like you want more of the Halo. Like throw me in an arena.
right.
We're all on even playing field and go from there.
Because Destiny,
and we'll get that
it's still,
soon.
It's still Bungie, right? So it still has that Halo vibe to it. So it just
The
makes
low
me
gravity
think
kind
of
of
Halo,
feel.
and
Yeah.
and that's why it's like, I don't know. That's why I liked Counter-Strike this weekend. It was nice getting away from Overwatch, where it was like teamwork is everything. It was nice being able to either carry or be carried, So Battalion kind of has that same feel, but again, such a trash community, it doesn't even matter. Do you want to get into these esports
Let's do
for
it.
the weekend? Let's start with the fighting game. We'll leave. What do we want to leave CS:GO for last?
Yeah, I mean,
We
it's
could-
the biggest event. The rest we
Right.
can kind of just go through quick hits on
Yeah,
who won.
I'm not gonna lie.
anything stand out.
FGC is running into this issue that there are many events going on, but I think it's also not profitable for a lot of these teams and players to be going out to too many of them. Street Fighter was there, but again, it was not as big as in years past. Punk beat Hot Dog in that after resetting the bracket. Super Smash Brothers, that's another one that's
Any big names there for that?
no. So remember last year they ran into the same issue they did last year, where Smash and Splash was the same weekend as it was last year. So
Ah.
all these pros have already committed to this, and I don't blame them, because like that's a Smash tournament, right? Like DreamHack, it's not as the Smash community, right? Like they're very big into their homegrown, hey, we're gonna help out our own first type of community, and
Yeah.
so they don't.
Those are
go-
also annual events that they go to every single year. And DreamHack's dates vary a little bit, so if it doesn't meet the schedule, you
It
are
just
gonna
doesn't mean
miss
as
out on
much.
those big names.
Like,
Yeah.
and not saying that DreamHack doesn't mean anything, but to these guys, a standalone yearly event that is there in the same spot every year means much more, right? It's like the Big House, Genesis, any of these, Summit, even at this point, has fallen into that realm where winning Summit means something to these guys. So all that, I think, partakes into this. But again, that's where DreamHack kind of suffers from, right? They get the short end of the straw where they don't get as top dogs. Halo, I did watch Halo. It was amazing to see that back at a LAN. Tox Gaming ended up defeating Falling Esports 4-0, but a lot of people had issues with the streaming quality and the production value for Halo. Like even like the pros were complaining about it.
Like the streaming quality in the sense of it was coming out like non-high def or what?
Yeah, well no, like the casting and just things like that. Like it didn't feel
Oh.
like a. But now that I think about it, I remember seeing this and making a comment on it that it must suck. So where the Halo stage was set up was where the music stage was, like right next to it. I believe on Friday it ran a little late, the Halo tournament did. So you had Seven Lions playing while Halo was still going on. No joke, next to Halo stage, you have international superstar, pop star, EDM artist just blasting music. Floor was vibrating. The lights were shaking. It was going so, like, the bass was so loud. And then you have these guys trying to play Halo.
You thought you were watching like a live kill montage video on YouTube?
Yeah, right. It really did feel like some type of montage back in the day. So that is probably why the pros were thinking like, dude, this stage sucks. but I don't know. Being there as as a viewer, a spectator in person, I loved it. I thought it was great. Rocket League, like I said, that was another big one. That was kind of front and center right when you walked in. Cloud9 ended up defeating TSM 4-2 in the finals. One note here, a few notes actually. This is where Jeff Goldblum was. That's where I ran into Jeff Goldblum. Did you see that picture?
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I did. I showed that to a lot of my buddies that I was with too.
So we were up. It was Brett and I got up to go someplace, just walking around, and then all of a sudden, like, we see it. And it's not uncommon to see like camera crews following people because
we're used to it.
Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time with us. And then all of a sudden, we look who he's following, and we're like, "Hold up, is that Jeff Goldblum?" And sure enough, it was. And I went to go. I was like, "Dude, I'm gonna get a liner from him." I was like, "I'm gonna get a liner from Jeff Goldblum for the podcast." I made it about 10 feet from him before I was stiff-armed by the long arm of his security. They weren't letting people get near him. Apparently, he's recording a show for Disney Plus, and it's like following him around to other events and things like that, like weird things, I guess, that Jeff Goldblum normally wouldn't do. So that's why he was there. But he was sitting there watching Rocket League, and that was kind of surreal to be like, whoa. All right. So that was interesting. Complexity made it to the quarterfinals before getting eliminated by Cloud9. That's kind of cool. It was kind of cool. I went and watched some Complexity. They're a local team based right off in Frisco, which is Dallas for the sake of argument. So that was kind of cool to see them make it through. And man, that's really about it for the esports this year. And then you have CS:GO.
But CS:GO, but the CS:GO was also like very much so the main attraction.
And that was
into it, right?
Yes, that's my next point. Is like CS:GO this year was a Masters. Like this was not just a throw of the mill. Hey, we want a tournament. Teams, do you want to come? This was a Masters. This was a big dog CS:GO tournament. So I understand why like other resources. You gotta move things around to make it work.
I mean, there's at least almost 10 top 20 teams there, if not even closer to 10 top 15 teams kind of in the mix here. So you had a good spread or a good lineup there to watch, and really it ended up being super meaningful, right? Like even though yes it was a big event, it kind of changed the landscape this week, as we kind of get into the results here. But did you get to watch the finals, or what did you watch exactly out there?
We watched the finals back at the because the Rocket League kind of finals were going at the same time. So I stood and watched some of the Rocket League finals, and then it was actually really super convenient. There were people next to us that projected the CS:GO finals on like the wall, so it was massive. So we were like, well, this works out. Okay, I don't have to go and see it in person. I've seen plenty of CS:GO in person. I'm fine chilling here and spending some time with my buddies. So we did go in for a little bit. I watched the Liquid and Furia game in person. That was a really good one. Ents had a nice show up, and one of our listeners, he was wearing an Ents jersey. So that was kind of cool. I hope he went and caught the finals to see them in a finals. You never know when that will happen again.
Well, it's been happening kind of consistently in the sense of that you get to see in person for sure, for sure. But they've been consistently playing well.
As a Cloud9 fan, you don't get to see your team in the finals, or maybe at all most of the time. So that does kind of suck that Cloud9 never made it to the stadium, so no one got to see them in person.
Yeah, Cloud9 ended up finishing 13th. Some other, we won't mention every team's ranking here, but some of the notable lower ranked teams. Cloud9 finished 13-16. Tyloo also 13-16. Fnatic 9-12. NRG 9-12. NiP 9-12. A lot of these teams you kind of expected to see a little bit higher, right? I don't think we expected to see NRG fall that low. And Fnatic. NiP a little bit more understanding just because Dennis wasn't able to play and PETA, their coach, had to step in for him.
Right.
It did have both the French teams at 5 and 6, G2 and Vitality. And then, obviously 4, 3, 2, 1, we'll just go in that order there. Furia, FaZe, Ents, and Liquid. And the reason this ended up being so meaningful is Liquid ended up taking not only number one in this tournament, but past Astralis for the first time in what, over a year. I mean, I know it's
Mm-hmm.
been a year plus that Australis has held that number one ranking. We see Liquid take over number one, and that's something that I think a lot of us kind of expected to see happen just with the tournament schedule that's been ongoing. The debate of the tournaments that Australis in particular have been
Right.
playing and only attending
It's
these
kind of been
blast
only a
events.
matter
And
of time if Liquid kept their pace, which they have.
yeah, if Liquid kept winning the events they were attending, they were eventually going to take over. And
Do you think that
regardless of
means
what,
anything to Astralis, though?
I was just gonna say, I do like. I mean, I think there's something to being number one, and then going into a tournament being number one. It's not like Astralis has dominated all these little minor tournaments, these Blast Pro tournaments that they've been playing in, right? They haven't been winning those either. So when you're not winning those tournaments and then you lose your number one ranking, I feel like you're going to start to question yourself a little bit, right? And then you saw it kind of carry over today into ECS. And I know this is going off track a little bit, but Astralis lost on Nuke again today. And so
Mm-hmm.
I do think there is some meaning to it in the sense of, okay, we're not number one. We're losing a couple of tournaments here. We're not advancing in these tournaments. So I think you lose your swagger a little bit.
But don't you think there's
And that's
also, though, they could also hang their hat on the fact that, like, yeah, they're number one because we let them be number one. Like, we gave up the number one position. Liquid didn't win it. We gave it up.
but Liquid had to earn it by placing number one. Like Liquid couldn't go into these tournaments and be third or fourth and then take over the number one spot. So yeah, in the sense because Astralis didn't play, it allowed Liquid to acquire more points, but Liquid had to go out and win those tournaments. So um, it's a little bit of hand in hand there. Yeah,
Right.
because of the lack of points Astralis was able to earn, but I do think Liquid earned it at the end of the day, and it's very much so deserving. I mean, I think the more tournaments you go to and the bigger tournaments you're attending, if you're winning them, you should be number one. You should be considered the number one team in the world. So um, it was great because we also, we saw Elige. This is shocking to me, but Elige got his first MVP award for as good and consistent that he's been over the last 2.5+ years now. I really didn't realize he had never won an MVP award. So that
He's
was
just
pretty
been
cool to
so
see him.
consistent, though. Like, he's
But we've
never.
seen him
But
hard
that's kind
carry
of.
too,
But don't
right?
you think, though, that's
Like,
kind of Liquid's thing, right? Is like, I mean, obviously now you got Stewie and everything, but that team as a whole has just been consistently consistent. Where it's
yeah,
not like they've had like that one guy just to pop off and be like, dude, he is the MVP every game. Like
yeah, yeah.
Simple is gonna be the MVP. Like no matter what happens, no matter how he performs, I feel like when Navi wins, Simple's the default go-to for an MVP.
Like
Like
somebody
Liquid doesn't
really has
have
to
that person.
shine. No, I agree. Liquid's got a pretty. I
Not that
mean,
that's a
their lineup
knock.
in
I'm just
general.
saying.
No, it's not. It's not at all. Yeah, I mean, between him, Stewie, Twist, like all these guys have the ability to be that guy on any given day. Um, Again, I mean, in this tournament, I think the biggest thing I got out of it again was seeing FaZe again not finding a way to push through and at least make it to a finals. I'm not expecting them to win these tournaments, but curious again to just kind of see they won't like have a
They
steady
have to
fifth.
change.
There's been reports that they might not even have a CS:GO roster, and that's why they haven't signed a long-term fifth player. And so you're even starting to hear those rumors because a lot of these contracts are about to run out. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on them and
They have to
see what
sign all
ends up
those
ultimately.
upcoming 12-year-olds to CS:GO.
Bro, he is 12. That's shitty. He's a 12-year-old. Yeah, I mean, so again, I thought it was a good tournament overall. I thought we had still had some of the better teams, at the end of this tournament. I thought it was great to see G2 and Vitality both also perform reasonably well considering their most recent checkered past, I guess you could say. And again, ENCE, another team that is consistently finding a way to perform well, and it's showing once again that the major wasn't a fluke for them. And so, um, I
Yeah, I
just like
think
to see
that's
these
the
guys
one.
find some consistency.
For me, that was a huge takeaway with ENCE, right? You've seen so many teams perform really well at majors and then flake out. Look at Gambit, right?
Immortals. Yeah, I mean,
Immortals. I think you could throw North on there. They've, I think, performed pretty well at some of these major tournaments and then just flake out. So the fact that ENCE has kind of proven, like, look, this wasn't a fluke because of some jacked up best of one system in majors. Like, now I think you could say they're legit, especially when they came back against Liquid on map 2 of the finals, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they were down and forced that to overtime. So I think that does speak volume to them as well. But so yeah, Counter-Strike to me, I guess, was still like the main focal point of this. It was fun. The venue was pretty sweet too. I never knew that was a part of the convention center. So good times were had at DreamHack. And like I said, I think this was on Saturday when I had the time to sit down with Mike Van Driel. He's the Chief Product Officer, the CPO of DreamHack. So I got to sit down and talk to him. Really a great interview when it was all said and done. Like I said, I thought we were going to just kind of cut this up and play little audio clips, but I did think it shared a lot of behind the scenes, right? Like what it goes into doing this, how it's not just as simple as people may think. Also mentions how they didn't, like the CSGO trophies got lost in the mail, and like UPS was like frantically trying to get it to them because I guess it was like UPS's fault that the trophy was gone or missing. And to be honest, I don't know if they ever got it. He said that it was scheduled, but I don't know if like the trophies that the players lifted were the trophies. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what
Is
the
that why I
original
was
one looked
wondering why all the players held up an individual trophy. I found that really odd that there wasn't like one house trophy that they generally get.
I don't know. Did they not show on stream? They had rings.
I saw the rings.
They had rings.
I saw
But
the
there
rings.
also
and
wasn't like a big tournament trophy, and I think
Yeah, so I was
that's
saying.
because it never arrived.
Oh man,
I
that's
think
sad.
that's because it never arrived. Like I said, I don't know. I know Mike said it in the interview that, oh yeah, it's on its way, but we don't know. But I don't know what the trophy looked like to know if it ever arrived. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like did they lose 5 mini trophies and they all came, or
Right.
that was the
Or was
substitute?
this like a scramble that you went to some
Like-
local trophy shop and said,
Like
what
Hobby
can you
Lobby,
give us?
let's go.
Yeah, like what can you give us, dude? Like we just need something right now. So it's
funny.
about a 10, 11-minute interview. We'll go ahead and play that and enjoy.
I'm the Chief Product Officer at DreamHack. So that's kind of a fancy way of saying I'm responsible of our products, which is basically events and esport tournaments. So I'm pretty much leading the team that's both planning and executing what we're doing.
And how long have you been with DreamHack?
Yeah, I've been with DreamHack for just 5 years and 2 months, and I've been working with DreamHack for about 7 or 8 years now, depending how you count.
And was this your first foray into esports? Have you been around esports culture in a whole for a while?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I really got into esports through Brood War, so I was never like really working in the industry. I mean, I was 15 at the time, right? But I kind of just got into esports through Brood War, and then I was in university. I was playing on my college StarCraft 2 team, and then just looking for opportunities in the industry, and I felt like it would be a fun industry to work in. So that's kind of my entry.
Did you go to college overseas?
So I'm Canadian. I went to Dalhousie University.
That's a twist.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've lived in Sweden for like six years now. But I lived in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And that's where the StarCraft team was in college?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Dalhousie.
See, that's so funny. So how long ago was that?
Oh, that would have been, I think, in like 2010. I guess.
Okay,
11. I don't know. That I'm so bad with dates.
And it's funny though, because now it's like you see esports in college, and I'm sure it's very different from your StarCraft college team, where it's like actual college-sponsored teams. Like even here on the floor, I walked past, and UNT was getting ready to play Oklahoma, and
Yeah, but I mean, at the time, we were like a recognized club within and we got our little budget from the student society or whatever it was.
Okay, so that's pretty ahead of its time then, as far as
I mean, I think
college goes.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that was CSL when they really started with. They were even doing it in Brood War days. I mean, now I think in terms of where it is, in terms of like the recognition from the schools, and now I mean, you've seen I think Riot announced their own association when this NCAA thing they said no, which is maybe a good thing. So I mean, I think it's definitely grown a lot, but I mean, it's been there too,
So even just with your short time relatively with DreamHack, because esports I would say really in the last 5 years has really gone. I mean, for us who have paid attention, it's kind of always been here, right? But
Yeah, for sure.
just from the outside, it's really blown up as far as sponsorships looking and people getting involved. For you on the product side, has that made it easier to market something like DreamHack, or is it more difficult because, it's easier because more people know about it, but it's harder because now your outreach has to be that much greater?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think, a growing industry in a way where it's definitely like, how to put it? I think, I mean, in the past, let's say, when I was visiting Austin before the very first DreamHack Austin with our CEO, who was our kind of really main events guy at the time, and we were just explaining everything to the convention center, and they were like, they just didn't really, know or get it or anything. Whereas, now here, I think there's quite a number of venues coming here and telling us, hey, you should come to an event at our venue, So all of these conversations have really changed, where before, like an esport event, when we start to tell them about we want to be open 24 hours a day, or we want to, we have this power demands, this internet demands, or, and they just look at us like we're crazy, Now, all of a sudden, those conversations are a lot easier to have. So I think there's a lot more open doors, a lot more people see like that this is something we want to be involved with. I mean, if you look at this event, one of the biggest partners is Chipotle. This is not, they're not making mouse and keyboards, it's a totally different brand. So I mean, I think, so many more doors are opening up. But then at the same time, there's a lot more, demands on the professionalism, what we're doing. You look at the demands around, I mean, the broadcast products we do, I mean, they're, expensive. You really need professionals. I mean, when I started at DreamHack, the people holding the cameras, a lot of these were volunteers, like everyone was just doing it for the love of it. We would do, 3 events a year or something. No one was getting paid. And now all of a sudden we're doing 10 events a year. It takes so much time, and the demands are so much that, of course, the costs go up. I mean, you look at stuff like security, the demands around that. So, I mean, it's become a lot more challenging just because the stakes are higher. But I mean, that's just natural with growth. So I mean, I think it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. We were talking before we started recording the retention rate of crew from one year of DreamHack or one DreamHack to another is pretty good, relatively speaking.
Yep.
I know in a couple weeks you guys are kicking right over to DreamHack Summer.
Yep.
Are you going to be involved with that as well?
This year, I'm not actually myself personally going to DreamHack Summer. I mean, I've been helping supporting the team planning. I mean, we're definitely doing so many events now that, I mean, one of the challenges we have, is that people are so passionate that they just work too hard and then they can get burnt out, right? So we're really trying to keep things balanced where people don't need to travel too much. People can be home, people can be off, people can chill. So, but I mean, it will be a lot of people that are doing both events. And I mean, just 2 weeks ago, we had our event in Tour France.
Right.
And so there's quite a group that's really, I mean, it's almost like a road show or, a tour, right? Where for us, Q1 is pretty slow, so it's a lot about planning in that part. And then when we just hit, May, June, July, event, and, we're out executing, doing it, then get a bit of time off in August again, and then right back to it. So, yeah, there will definitely be a lot of people there, and I mean, DreamHack Summer is a huge event.
Right, it's a big one.
It's gigantic. I mean, Dallas, this has been huge. I mean, we're catching up. I mean, I think obviously there's more people in the U.S. than Sweden, so the events can grow in a bit of a different way. But I mean, DreamHack Summer and Winter, if you're that American looking to make the pilgrimage, I would say definitely go to one of those events. Yeah.
When moving from, you don't have to give the details on when you guys decided to move away from Austin. But was it important to stay in Texas? Was Dallas always the choice on the list? Because you got San Antonio, which is a lovely city, Houston.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it was a big discussion internally. And I mean, Austin was awesome. It was a great venue, like super nice people there to work with. And I mean, great reception. I'll never forget our first event there. And I think, to touch on Texas was always, I think, very, very important for us. I mean, in terms of the bring your own computer culture, I think that's where we came to Austin first because we were like, where can we do the best? Like, where will we have the highest success rates of a LAN party?
6th Street, it's just kind of...
Yeah, exactly. So
Blizzard is out there.
Yeah. But then when we want to keep growing, I mean, now here in the Kay Bailey Convention Center, I mean, it's just a bigger space, right? The airport is bigger. It's just a bigger population. So, yeah, it's a lot of reasons that kind of went into that move. And I mean, we were a bit, You always get scared when you change like a new
Right.
venue, introduces new dress, new challenges. It's nice to just go back to nice, safe Austin Convention Center we've been before. Because once you build up relationships and all this kind of stuff, everything is just works easier. People know each other. But overall, it feels like Dallas can definitely be a home for quite some time, most likely.
One of the big differences between Dallas and Austin is now we have a Masters event here with CS:GO. Was that always the plan to make the first one here in Dallas obviously a big one with CS:GO Masters being here?
Yeah, I mean, I think we really just wanted to make the biggest frickin' event possible. And so by placing the biggest possible esport tournament we can have here, it would just drive more attention, more buzz, more PR, more attendance, more everything. And we also want to really capture like what our events really are, because there's so many people that just tune in on Twitch and think that, okay, DreamHack is just, another esport tournament like, Star Ladder or a Face It or an ESL, whereas really what's going on at our events, I mean, all the panels, the indie games, the concerts, all this other content, we really want to try to make people more aware of that. So by putting these two things beside each other, and the way that this venue is set up, where we can really have like, this is the world-class esports championship taking place in this arena, and then in parallel we have the festival with, of course, a ton of other esports tournaments taking place too, which actually is probably the part I'm most proud of in terms of what we're doing now with Madden and how big Rocket League has gotten, and now we're doing
for
mobile.
everyone,
It's just
especially this year.
Yeah. So.
And that's what we always tell our listeners too. It's like, if you've never been to a DreamHack, it's not just esports, right? It's really just a celebration of, I say, gaming culture.
Exactly.
Because you have the board games, you have Magic is here.
The free play areas.
Free
I mean,
play.
the arcade. It was Jeff Goldblum was playing DDR.
I saw him walking around, and I turned around, and I was like, "Is that Jeff Goldblum?"
Yeah.
Oh, like it's insane. Like the type of people that you get around here. It's not just streamers coming by anymore, right? It's like everyone is like, I gotta go see what this is, and I think this is the perfect venue to see. Like, oh, okay. It's not just esports. Like, everyone understands arcade games and board games, and they see that celebration and the passion. And I think it's great to be here in Dallas.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for us too, it's really important to do more with the events. I think they're like, obviously these like stadium esports events are super cool, but quite often at the end of the day, you're kind of sat there staring at a screen, and there's. Once again, if you compare sports with esports, there's a physicality to throwing a football or doing something that's a lot more. When you see it in person, a hockey game, or a baseball player hit a ball, like there's a physicality to it. We're seeing it in person versus seeing it on a screen is something different.
Right.
But in esports, it's still a screen, So I think it's important, and that's where we also try to like, with the schedule around DreamHack Masters, set it so that people don't need to have these super long days sitting in arena. There's a lot more stuff to do, because I think at the end of the day, people are more and more demanding with how they spend their time, and so we really need to have the best event experience possible and just have as many things to do as possible. So that's really what we're trying to capture here.
Right. So let's touch on the topic of events then, and with the esports games and everything here, how do you guys decide? Because we have Halo here in Dallas. That's the first time that I believe Halo, at least here, at a DreamHack in Texas, and everything there. No Blizzard here this year. How does that decision go into play on like, okay, let's try Halo this year? Or is that Microsoft coming to you guys saying, hey, why not try a little Halo? Why not give a little bump to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot situational. It really depends on where the publishers are at. I mean, first and foremost, we need to be able to work with the publishers. It's their intellectual property. So if a publisher doesn't want us to have their game, I mean, that's the first kind of check, is like, is the publisher on board?
Right.
Whether it's really their initiative funded by them or something where we just get permission and a license and we do what we want.
Right.
So I mean, that's kind of the first check, and then the question is like, is there an audience for this? Are sponsors interested in this? Can we monetize this? How many tickets will we sell and stuff and so forth? I mean, so as an example, like with Halo, I mean, we started working with 343 actually in 2017, and we did DreamHack Denver and DreamHack Atlanta with HCS events and Halo 5. And then we did Atlanta again last year. And now there's a little bit of this lull period, let's say, where I think people are anticipating, Halo Infinite and so on. And 343 has this grassroots program, so we were like, hey, instead of let's do something together here. We're there, just supporting with the prize money and a little bit of additional stuff there. But otherwise, it's really our initiative. And I mean, that's just for us. We've seen at Denver and Atlanta like a really great, passionate community there. And also for me on a personal level, I was working a lot with MLG when I was first getting into esports. I was more the StarCraft guy, but I always appreciated and
Halo was MLG.
Exactly. So I always loved that community, and I think it fits right in really well with DreamHack. I mean, obviously our background is a bit PC gaming, but we want to get in and be something for all gamers. So Halo feels like a natural fit.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I mean, when Halo PC comes out, I mean, it's going to be such a smooth transition now. It's like, hey, Halo always was here. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
All right. So I know on the outside, Dallas has been quite smooth. I even told you ahead of time. I was like, wow, I felt like getting here, like getting checked in and everything was the smoothest it's been, and you seemed a little surprised by that.
I mean, we'll always look at what we do, and I think we're critics of ourselves.
Yeah, you're your hardest critic, for sure.
So there were definitely some queuing problems with registration, but otherwise it's been very smooth, I think. And I mean, no event is perfect. There's always some little odds and ends or, late shipments. I mean, I think our Masters trophy right now is in Kentucky because UPS has let us down, but that should hopefully be arriving.
Over here tomorrow, you got
we're really crossing our fingers, but they told us before it could, So, there's always something, but overall, it's been smooth overall.
So for us, on the surface, everything looks good. At any given moment, though, behind the scenes, how close is everything just about to panic or have a snap or anything going on?
No, I think now we're at a point where, again, when if I look back to when I was starting at DreamHack, how events used to be, just because of how honestly short-staffed we were and how, let's be frank, low budgets we had. I mean, now we really have a professional, good team, a combination of an amazing crew. So people are able to leave the venue and get a good night's sleep. I mean, a lot of events, if I think back to like 2012 events in Europe, it's like people, you almost wouldn't sleep.
Right.
It was crazy. And I think the first time we did DreamHack Austin, we had 1 day to build the whole event. It was insane. I mean, here I think we had like 5 days to build the event. We could really take time, and I mean, we still want to have more. We actually still want to have more time to add polish. But overall, it's actually pretty calm on the back, and I think most of our staff have some time to actually just to be able to look and enjoy what's going on instead of just being like, put out that fire, put out that fire, put out that fire, put out that fire. So it's really smooth, and that feels good for us. I mean, it's really important that the events run smooth and that people aren't because of the event business. It is stressful. Like it's I don't know the studies or whatever, but it's like one of the more stressful fields you can work in, just because when something goes wrong, the dominoes can start to fall over, right? Because everything is so connected. So it is stressful, and we need to try to plan and do things in place so we have, if any issues arise, whether they're small or big, procedures in place and the right communication channels so things can escalate in proper ways and not create panic, because once you panic, then it's bad. So
that's where things really get ramped up.
And again, thank you to Mike Van Driel, CPO of DreamHack, and thank you to DreamHack and everyone out there that made the interview possible. I will say this, everyone at DreamHack, as far as the staff goes this weekend, was super nice and super helpful. That was really nice of them. I could not imagine being like a chief product officer or anyone who was in charge of setting something of this size up. Like the amount of you've seen me, I get stressed out just trying to set up our group going to DreamHack and getting a dinner together. Could you imagine? And then and then all of a sudden, you do get that call saying, hey, this is a UPS. We have your package here. It's supposed to be there, but we have it. I would be flipping out.
Some things you just can't control, man. Hopefully they understand that by now.
At that point in the business, I think they know. Because he said in the interview, he's not going to DreamHack Summit, but there are some people who are turning around from DreamHack Dallas, going right to DreamHack Summer, which is in a week or two. You go from
These
one
guys
event
are
to the next.
pros at it though now. They'd break it down, set it up. It is insane. I mean, to think of the scope and scale that they do this at and how quickly they're able to do it, it's something else, man. I mean, hats off to them for being able to pull it off, and we're glad that they do every year.
Yeah, I'm glad they do, so we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some e-news, shall we? ECS final started today for CS:GO.
Astralis
watching any of
losing
this?
their. I have got a chance to catch a little bit of it this morning. Astralis lost their first round matchup to Furia, 16-14 on Nuke. Again, that's like the second loss in a row on Nuke for Astralis. So something noteworthy there. They now drop into the elimination match versus NIP tomorrow. On the other match, NRG won. They're advancing to the semifinals here. They beat Furia in the second round 2-0. On the other side of the bracket, Complexity lost. They are going head-to-head against MIBR, who lost their first matchup against North. And this was a crazy match. I don't know if you got to see this or not, but MIBR was up 14-3 on this map. Cold Zero at one point, I think, was, oh man, I don't know, 22-1, roughly right around there. He finished with about 45 kills. He finished with about 45 kills in like a double or triple
I didn't
overtime.
even see this on Twitter, to be honest with you. Like, the whole talk I saw today was Furia and Astralis. That's all I saw on Twitter today.
So this was basically right after that. And yeah, I mean, Colzera started off incredibly hot. I mean, this was a 14-3 lead that they had. They blew the lead to North. North came back and won this 25-23, putting MIBR in the elimination matchup tomorrow versus Complexity. North advances to the semifinal matchups, beating Vitality. So Vitality will be in a decider match tomorrow against either Complexity or MIBR. Furia will be in a decider match versus Astralis or NIP. And then we'll have the playoffs right after. So there's a fairly small tournament in the sense of it's big because it's the ECS finals.
Right.
Not a lot of teams, though, just two groups moving through. And they're kind of bang. I mean, we're gonna already know the semifinal matchups tomorrow pretty early in the day.
If you have been paying attention to Twitter or Reddit in CS:GO news, the other thing that you would have noticed today is Blast Pro Series. That has been all over the place. You did have... to be honest, I'm kind of catching this story on the back end. They ended up changing their format to best of 3. Everyone was like, super, great, they're doing a right thing. And then it was also announced almost simultaneously, like they were hoping that the best of 3 was going to hide the fact that this happened. But they are also switching their LA venue to a much, much smaller venue. In fact, they sell furniture, and they are moving it's like a business that sells furniture. They're moving the furniture out, putting the Blast Pro Series in, and you're thinking, well, you know, that happens. You don't sell as many tickets. You got to downsize your venue. Except for they've also, like, doubled the price of tickets. Like, they're still trying to make that money.
Wasn't it like 20? I think it was like $25 a ticket at the original venue, and now it's like 99.
Yeah.
So they didn't even just double it. They really hiked this up, and they said, I mean, I think it's just due to lack of ticket sales in LA, and LA has a lot to do, so maybe that's part of it. The reason, you know, games in general don't sell as well over there. But yeah, drastic change from one venue to another.
They're saying, like, there's rumors that, like, this venue holds like 1,200.
It'll be intimate, is what they'll call it.
And that's why they charge more. Marketing genius, really. Call of Duty was the new Modern Warfare. Call of Duty Modern Warfare teases its new game. People are hyped for that.
Trailer looked pretty dope. I'm excited for it myself.
I'll get it, even though I tell myself I won't. I'll get it.
Same crap every year.
I'll get it. It was easy to say no when it was only on the PS4, but now that the fact that it's on my Blizzard launcher every time I open it up, I'm like, well,
you know what? And look at it this way. I have higher expectations this time around because of the fact that it is the first season of the franchising model. So I'm really curious to see, you know, how much more effort and kind of how much more was put into this game to really make it flawless. Like, I mean, I have pretty high expectations.
The comp has to be there at launch. You can't do this 3 months in garbage and now you put in the pro ladder. That has to be in the game at launch.
And look, there's no BR. They don't have as much to focus on in this one. It's purely the multiplayer and a single-player game. The single-player is coming back for those of you that really enjoyed that
down.
in previous CODs.
I enjoyed it.
So,
I was like the
yeah, I did too.
1% that did.
So anyway, yeah, if you haven't had a chance to check out the teaser, definitely go do that. It looks pretty dang good so far.
In Battle Royale news, ESPN announced that they are creating a EXP, which is their own series of esports competitions, starting with a few Apex Pro-Ams at the ESPYs coming up here in July. So that's kind of interesting. ESPN is getting into the event section of esports.
I don't really care for a Pro-Am personally. I'll be more interested in the one that's happening at the X Games in Minneapolis this August. That'll be the Apex Invitational. I believe that will be pro players. Definitely excited to check that out. A Pro-Am, really, I have
It's
no
just going to be
interest in those
celebrities
types of
and
events.
Ninja.
Unless they're inviting me, I could really care less who's going to be at those things. I mean, it's just like, going to the fourth page on Twitch and watching somebody. I just don't do it that often.
That being said, you should totally do that on the talk show section and then find us.
There you go. But again, I mean, it's cool that ESPN is moving, in creating
Right.
this series. I mean, it's just more exposure. It's good for esports. I want to see how they kind of came to the choice of Apex. I find that to be pretty interesting to be their choice right now. But, we've seen Apex in the headlines again here recently with, what did we just announce? The Pro League that is happening with Face It. So that's coming up, and then
Seeing
they
them
just had a
pop
pretty
up twice in 2 weeks is a little interesting. Almost like
Yeah.
maybe something's going on behind the scenes that people don't know.
Well, and they're changing the game up a little bit also. I don't know if you saw in the most recent update,
Got
they
rid of
removed bunny
hop.
hopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really big deal. For those of you that play CS, you think of it as removing bunny hopping from CS. The response really wasn't that great from the community on that. It kind of lowers the skill ceiling quite a bit. But they are making changes, changing it to where you can't change your auto configs and things of that sort. So making it kind of a balanced game across the board, and that's probably all in anticipation for the upcoming league and these sorts of events that are coming up here.
In other news, you have Denial CSGO team gets funded by Sir Scoots, allowing them to stay in Brazil and play in the American Minors.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing under Son of Scoots, and Scoots is, such a vocal individual and really is involved heavily, obviously, with the Players Association as an advisor and really backs the players. So this was a great move on his part. He continued to push for the release of the roster, and not only, was he fighting for them, but he was also funding them, allowing them to continue their dream, which I believe ended here. I'm pretty sure they lost in the qualifiers, but anyways, gave them an opportunity
Scoots
to do
doesn't have
so.
to pay that much.
Yeah.
That's very cool of him. Halo Infinite will be shown off this week next week at E3. I was so sad. So like one of the first things I did at DreamHack was like set my stuff down and then like sprint to the Microsoft booth because I convinced myself that like the super ultra secret early preview would be there.
Yeah.
And they had nothing.
Nada.
Nothing. Like it wasn't even. No, you wouldn't even know Halo PC was coming out. I was so sad, but obviously that's all strategical.
They're showing it off on PC at E3 now. I don't know if that's for like graphical purposes, because obviously it's going to look significantly better than it would look on console.
Right.
But I think that kind of shows the confidence level that they have in showing off the PC product, right?
Yeah.
And also kind of makes me feel that we're going to see a simultaneous release. Not
I
some
also
sort of
have a
delayed
theory.
Release.
Well, maybe we'll do E3. Maybe we'll do something for E3 either on the show next week or maybe even on the our YouTube. We'll do an additional table talk or something for it. I have a theory that Microsoft is stepping away from actively trying to keep up with the next-gen console race and doing more cross-platforming with PC and Xbox.
Makes sense.
I think
and they have the Stadia also, or no, that's a Google Stadia.
That's
right
Google.
there.
That's Google.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a feeling that's my theory on that. And then you actually you showed me this earlier that Myers Leonard from Portland Trailblazers signed with FaZe.
Yeah, he's part of like the FaZe crew now.
Like
Which,
official too.
like,
Like it's like
yeah.
he was saying, like I'm using this to increase my esports brand. Like it's not just like I did this to get free shirts.
No, I love this stuff. I mean, the more people, again, it's just the more that are involved. People like him that have a different sort of public perception, right? It's always the regular sports crowd that's always, oh, why is this here? Why is this there? You know, these guys are advocates for us, kind of like you see with Rick Fox and stuff. So anytime you see somebody get involved that's already a big name in another sport or whatever it may be, it's always exciting. And this was like legit joining the team. So
Right.
I thought that was.
And the best part is that they know he's over 12.
Well, yeah, hopefully.
No confusion there, FaZe. No confusion there. You don't need to lie about this one.
I wouldn't throw this out there. That was a garbage move on Tifu's part for throwing the kid under the bus, though. Regardless, FaZe knowing he's underage, Tifu is the one that called him out.
This situation is messed up on every front.
Every
front, because you also kind of don't feel bad for the kid because it's like, well, you knew they were lying. Like,
yeah, but like the guy has 3,000 viewers every time he streams. He's making like an actual living.
I
off
agree.
Of this,
I
and now
agree.
he's,
I'm
like,
not
shut
arguing
down.
why. Like, I would have totally lied too. But
Yeah.
this is also a life lesson of, you know,
Lie better.
yeah, either lie better or, you know, that's consequences in life. So he'll come back and make more money than you and me combined for the rest of our life. So
He's probably already done that.
I don't feel bad for him is my point.
He'll be okay. He'll be okay.
I don't feel bad. Oh boy. Well, what a good episode, Anuj. What a good episode. Thank you everyone for listening. Episode 160 of The Center Ring is in the books. Again, if we met you, or if I met you rather, at DreamHack, awesome. I know there were some listeners out there that I didn't get a chance to meet to. I'm going to blame my phone. For whatever reason, Twitter notification is a hit and miss on my phone. Sometimes they go through, sometimes they don't. So if you DM'd me, that I just didn't see it. And that's my bad. My bad, I take the blame. But we'll meet up at the next event. We typically go to like the Dallas Fuel watching parties and everything. So if you're in the area, come to those, say hi, do something like that. Or get in our Discord, which you can find the link on our Twitter at The Center Ring. Be up to date with all the show news and what's going on with us. We will be back next Monday. We're going back on our normal schedule. I don't like this Thursday stuff. It really threw my week off. But we'll get some sleep. I'm going to get some sleep. Anuj is going to take some medicine. We'll be back next week fully recharged. And talk about some ECS finals action. What the hell is going on with Optic Gaming?
Maybe
That
some
will be all
E3
next week.
predictions, possibly for some upcoming games that we're going to see.
But we'll see you then.